gentlemen. As you can probably see, we're in the area of Westminster. Very shortly, we're going to turn the boat round, and we're going to begin pointing out places of interest to you on this glorious day in sunny London. Okay, just going to blast the horn. That tells all the river operators around us we are swinging the boat around. Okay, so from here, we're going to point out places of interest. As mentioned earlier, we're not professional guides, but we do learn a few facts about everything that you can see. We're more than happy to pass them on for your entertainment. Your lovely view there, ahead of us to the right, of the Palace of Westminster, more often referred to as the Houses of Parliament, of course. That is the meeting place of the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The building itself has two world-renowned towers. The most famous of them, known around the world as Big Ben, is actually called the Elizabeth Tower. It was named after Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II during her Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Big Ben, you probably know, is one of the largest, well, it is the largest bell that hangs in the belfry up and behind the clock faces. It rings on the hour and has done so every hour since 1859. Yeah. The other tower is called the Victoria Tower. There we go, a World Heritage Site. Lovely view of it. The bridge next to it is Westminster Bridge. Dates from 1862.
It's going to be over here now.
That makes Westminster Bridge the
right there.
oldest bridge you're going to see on the whole of our tour. River Thames is full of history.
You should be able to see it.
We're going way back. A bit more recent, such as this observation wheel. Now ahead of us on the right, it's called the London Eye, and the London Eye is 135 metres in height. 32 individual pods each represent the 32 boroughs of London. It takes half an hour to go right the way round. But on a clear day, such as we have not got today, you can see over 30 miles to the west, where Windsor Castle is. In fact, you can see no far. To the left-hand side, this whole area is full of ministry buildings, known as Whitehall. The large building behind the Golden Eagle on a plinth there, that's the Ministry of Defence main building. The embankment to the left, which is the north shore of the river, is the Victoria embankment. The embankment to the right, which is the south bank of the river, is the Albert embankment, named after Victoria and Albert, as the embankments were built under Victoria's reign in the 1860s. Now we're going to go back through the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. That's the just ahead of us. Train leaving the station, which is to the left-hand side. It's the building that looks a bit like a jukebox. And Charing Cross Station is known as the centre of London because all distances are measured from that station. So when you see the distance to London on a street sign, that is how many miles you are from Charing Cross Station. Now, Charing Cross Bridge was converted into a railway bridge by the Victorians, but originally, in the 1840s, it was a footbridge. Just here on the right, you'll see the brick tiled support of the bridge, and that was part of the original footbridge known as the Hungerford footbridge, designed by Isambard Kingdom Group.
Thank you.
Marinated chicken, mushroom sauce, buffalo potato, carrot, and green beans.
Down there, we have a train that's rumbling over the top of us now. Trains also pass underneath this bridge because the underground is 30 metres below the seabed, part of the northern line of the tube network. Over to the right-hand side, we've got the Royal Festival Hall, the concert hall that has remained there since it was built in 1951. It was part of the Festival of Britain celebrations, a post-war
There's your pop.
festival designed to cheer up the nation. It's a world-renowned. Back over to the left of the Victoria Embankment, we have a stone obelisk that is nicknamed Cleopatra's Needle. It was presented to the UK in 1815 and towed here all the way from the Nile, put up there when the embankment was built in 1862. Now the next bridge is Waterloo Road Bridge, just ahead of us. This bridge was built during the Second World War by predominantly a female workforce, as so many of the men were away fighting for king and country. Some 80% of the workforce were female. Known as the Ladies' Bridge for that reason. Ladies take great pride in knowing this is the longest bridge to span the river at 1/4 of a mile in length. Also, the only bridge to be finished on time and budget. So hats off to the ladies of London of the war effort. Back over to the right, we have a building that looks a bit like a car park, but this is the Royal National Theatre, opened by Her Majesty the Queen in 1976, a theatre of great repute. Over to the left, a far more ornate building is Somerset House. If you look below the green dome on the roof to street level, you'll see an archway, and the river used to run through that archway before the embankment was built in 1862. If we go back to the Victoria Embankment on the left, you'll see a series of green lion's heads put there by the Victorians as a flood warning indicator. They were put above the highest tide level that could be tolerated. In other words, if the river ever came above those lions' heads to the left, the police would have to evacuate the adjacent underground for fear of flooding. They had a rhyme to help them remember this. It goes, or it went like this rather. If the lions are drinking, then London is sinking. Nice old-fashioned way of remembering when and when not to be worried about flooding. Stay to the left. The white ship there is the HQS Wellington, and just behind her stern, you'll see a stone archway in the river. This is Temple Gate, one of the gated entrances to the City of London. So we've just left Westminster, and we've now sailed into the City of London. On the street, just to the right, you'll see 2 silver dragons guarding against evil spirits from entering the square mile. The City of London has several gated entrances. Temple Gate is just one of them. We also have Aldgate, Moorgate, Bishopsgate, Ludgate, etc. All guarded by those silver dragons that I pointed out. Now, recently, the silver dragons have failed to work, I'm afraid to say. They are designed and put there to stop evil spirits from entering the City of London. But my ex-wife works in the city and walks past those dragons. Now we're just going to slow down a bit. We're going to let this boat, because gentlemanly conduct takes place on this river. The bridges ahead of us are called the Blackfriars, and we're going to take the number 4 arch behind the ship. Right, he's going to come through ahead of us. Now, later on this afternoon, the bridge that we're going through will be too low for this ship because the river is tidal and the tide goes up and down twice a day with a large tidal range. So we're going to follow the red grid that will blow up boat ahead of us through the number 4 arch of Blackfriars Bridge, which was opened by Queen Victoria in 1869. Lots of the bridges that you're going to see today were opened during Queen Victoria's reign. As her reign coincided with the Industrial Revolution. So some of the engineering abilities to build bridges suddenly improved, metalworking, etc. Now the name Blackfriars comes from a monastery which once stood on the northern shore to the left, where the monks wore black habits, and that is where the name Blackfriars. Now the road bridge is followed by the railway bridge, but in between there are the remains of a much older train bridge, which was designed by Isambard, King of Brunel. These red columns are what's left of the London to Dover Railway Bridge, which was built in 1845. And when it was dismantled in the 1980s, it was deemed to be a better idea to leave the supports here because they add or would possibly upset the adjacent footings if they were removed. As we leave the Blackfriars and come out into daylight again, ahead of us to the right is a very large brick building called the Thames Modern. Now, it hasn't always been an art gallery. It was opened by Her Majesty the Queen as a power station in the 1950s, reopened by her as the art gallery in recent years. Over to the left, St Paul's Cathedral dominates the skyline there. The masterpiece of Sir Christopher Wren, the famed architect. Now, St Paul's was built to replace the previous one that had burnt down during the Great Fire of London. And Sir Christopher Wren was responsible for repairing and rebuilding almost 50 churches around the city of London. Now, whilst St Paul's was being built, and it reaches 365 feet in height, Sir Christopher Wren lived in a house just to the right. Once we're past this footbridge, which is the Millennium Footbridge, look at the row of houses to the right, and you'll see a property with a red door. It was Sir Christopher Wren's house where he lived, monitoring the construction of his cathedral. Also on the right, we have a replica of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, a very authentic replica of the original that stood very close to here until the 1600s. So that theatre is not made of any modern material or any modern devices. There's no heating, there's no lighting, no amplification, so you get a true experience when you go in there. No seats as well, it stands up. And there's no roof, incidentally. So on a day like today, you get wet because umbrellas did not exist in the Middle Ages. You get a true experience like getting drenched. Now, We're going to go through the Southwark Road Bridge. This is an Edwardian bridge, a bit newer than the others. Quite a thin, little, ornate bridge. And just through this bridge to the right is where the original Shakespeare's Globe Theatre stood. Evidence was found of that Shakespeare's Globe Theatre when the building on the right it was being excavated. Anyway, Shakespeare's Globe Theatre burnt down in 1615. Luckily for Shakespeare and his actors, they were able to drown their sorrows in the nearby pub that is here to the right, that had also opened that very year. Behind the fairy lights there, the Anchor at Bankside opened early 1615. So it's been frequented by Shakespeare and his actors. Other well-known Londoners that have attended there include Dr. Johnson, author of the first dictionary, Samuel Pepys, the diarist, and your crew of the boat who are helping you aboard. That's Claudio and Charlie. I'm Charlie speaking at the moment. Okay, we go into that pub to carry out research so we can pass on this historical factual commentary to you. We've just sailed through the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. Cannon Street Station is over to the left. You'll see two ornate Victorian brick towers there. That is Cannon Street Station. Now, in between the towers, originally there was a glass dome roof, a very ornate glass dome roof that was removed at the outbreak of the Second World War. It was taken away for safe storage in a warehouse in Kent. Now, during the Blitz, Cannon Street wasn't touched by a single bomb or incendiary device. But the warehouse where the glass was stored, you guessed it, received the direct hit. Right, this is London Bridge. This is the fifth bridge that spanned the river just here. First crossing was built by the Romans over 2,000 years ago. This bridge you're looking at opened by Her Majesty the Queen in 1973. The previous bridge, which was bridge number 4, was crumbling and sinking into the bed of the river, so we decided to sell it. And it was sold to an American oil tycoon, then taken to the US, where it was rebuilt over Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert. To the left-hand side, between the gap in the buildings, you'll see the monument for the Great Fire of London, built to resemble a candle. The monument is 202 feet in height, and the monument is also 202 feet away from Pudding Lane, where the fire began in 1666. Tall glass building to the right, called the Shard at London Bridge. We'll probably get a better view of it a bit later on. Tall, we're a bit too close. Now, coming up on the right is the HMS Belfast. She's somewhat hidden by a visiting cruise ship. But the HMS Belfast, in a couple of weeks, will celebrate the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. You can see 6 of her 6-inch guns on the bow there. There are another 6 on the stern. Those guns were fired at salvo at the beach of Normandy to try and let the troops board there and then evacuate. They were fired at 05:27 hours on the 6th of June, 1944. That's just under 80 years ago. That was the very first time those guns were used in a. Yeah, she wasn't the first to fire, she was the second. And she fired off her port side, not towards us from here, but towards the shore. into the port broadside sailboat and helping to begin the liberation of Europe. So there will be many celebrations. The king himself will be down here to help celebrate that. Belfast. Now she lays here as a museum ship now, run by the Imperial. Ahead of us we've got Tower Bridge, and also we've got a little ferry in our way that we're going to go forward, push it out of the way. We have to. There he goes. Look, he's got the message. That's HMS Belfast to the right. Coming up on the left is the Tower of London that we're going to describe in a little more detail later on during the journey. But I'd just like you to consider the Tower of London has almost 1,000 years of history under its belt.
Wow.
Built for William the Conqueror just after the Battle of Hastings of 1066. Unlike Tower Bridge, ahead of us, who also has a celebration coming up, Tower Bridge next month will turn 130 years old, having opened for the first time in the summer of 1894. The Tower Bridge was built to let large ships up through this middle part of the bridge we're going through. That's the lifting mechanism that can lift to the fully open position in 90 seconds.
Wow.
To let large ships here to the upper pool of London. The other side of the bridge is known as the lower pool. And back when this was a very busy port, this bridge would go up and down between 50 and 60 times a day. And it still stands today that boats take precedence over the road traffic because it was such an important busy port. It was the busiest port in the world for over 400 years from the 16th century on. If you look to the right, you'll see a very large warehouse. Butler's Wharf. Warehouses stretch from here in this direction. Excuse me, for over 10 miles in the direction we're sailing. Every year, the Port of London had around 20,000 trading ships visit. Hard to imagine now, but if you use your imagination,